So today our invited speaker is Kerry, and she is the Amphibian, Reptile, Invertebrate, and Invasive Species Program Manager for the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies. And in this role, she serves also as the state agency's coordinator for partners in amphibian and reptile conservation, or PARC, which some of you may be familiar with. And if you are not familiar with it, Kerry has been so kind to bring a display of some of their education materials, which is out front. So hopefully you'll get the chance to chat with her about that later. So this is an organization that shares a lot of our goals and aims as the Virginia Herp Society as well. And so I'm very pleased join me in welcoming Kerry as one for speaker.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome, really excited to be here. How many folks are familiar with PARC? Awesome. Cool. So I don't have to give my talk, right? No. So we've been around for 25 years. So we are celebrating our 25th anniversary right now. And we're all dedicated to the conservation of herpetofauna and the habitats that they live in. And we're all about this partnership and collaboration and all of that. So PARC is actually an unaffiliated network of partners. And what the heck does that mean? It means that we aren't an official organization. We're not a nonprofit. We don't hold funds. We don't have funded positions or anything like that. We're just a group of folks who really, really love herps. And we have this essentially space for people to convene and get together and work on projects and resources that are going to benefit the overall herp community, both people and the herps themselves. So it was established in 1999. I'm speaking on behalf of the national park, and we do have 5 regional parks that you can see up there on the map. Here in Virginia, technically you're part of Northeast Park, but you straddle a lot of the southern spots. So folks are also involved in Southeast Park, which includes Caribbean Park. And you'll hear a presentation later from Chris Peterson, who's part of Department of Defense Park. So at the national level, we're really guided by an executive committee and a joint national steering committee. And that joint national steering committee has representatives from all those different regions, as well as industry and others that are part of that guiding force. So as I said, we are celebrating our 25th anniversary, and we're notable for bringing people together for these 25 years. And we're pretty proud to say that there are a lot of people who are notable herpetologists who've essentially grown up in PARC over the years. So it's just great to be that space for people to learn and convene together. So folks participate in either state or regional chapter meetings, task teams, and more. We provide that platform for researchers and practitioners to collaborate. So some of our big accomplishments are the habitat management guides that you can see there. I've got 2 out on the table, the Midwest and the Northeast. And if anybody wants one before I leave today, you're welcome to have them. So we have those. They're all free online, and you can download them. We have an inventory and monitoring guide. We have a guide on roads and ecological infrastructure, all sorts of stuff that merges, that best available science about for herp management. And so some of our other resources include a conceptual criteria for the designation of PARCas, which are priority amphibian and reptile conservation areas that have essentially been modeled after the important bird area concept. So PARC was the impetus for coming together and putting together this model criteria. And because we don't have funding and staff and all of that, our fiscal sponsor, the Amphibian and Reptile Conservancy, has really taken this on as their hallmark on-the-ground conservation program. So they are now working on identifying PARCas across the country, and they're doing on-the-ground management in those PARCas, habitat management, head starting, all sorts of things, working with state natural resource agencies and others to also recognize these PARCas as priority areas for conservation and specifically herp conservation. So check out ARC and all the great work that they're doing with PARC or PARCas. And then on top of that, one of our more recent accomplishments too is this timber rattlesnake conservation action plan, the TERCAP, which I saw in the silent auction out there. And one of the editors is here in the room. That's Chris Peterson. So if you've got questions about timber rattlesnakes, then Chris is your guy there. So in the Northeast, our regional group is called PARC, and they have a steering committee which guides their activities, and they have working groups like the Turtle Working Group, their emerging disease task team, and vernal poles working group. And they've developed a number of resources, both for the Northeast and things that we also use at the national level. For example, that Turtles Losing Ground poster was one that was developed out of Northeast PARC's Turtle Working Group, but now it's available for free for download on our website and their website and all of that. They've established turtle pit tagging protocols, which are being implemented in all the Northeastern states. And they've really been at the forefront of a lot of the field equipment and disinfection guidance, not just for field equipment like our boots and gear, but also for large scale construction equipment as well. And so they're putting together those guidelines and utilizing, you know, the talent and the knowledge in their group to help create these resources that everybody can be able to use and implement. Similar to Northeast, we have PARC. I think PARC is actually our largest chapter people-wise. And so they have task teams instead of working groups, but the same thing. They're focused on, you know, diseases that are happening in the Southeast. Some of these are novel, like snake pentastomes are something that is in Florida and right on the border by Georgia. So that's a concern. They have a hellbender working group. They work a lot on invasive species, particularly invasive herps of the Southeast, like tegus and things like that. So they have conservation action plans, and they're going to be holding their next in-person meeting in March in Alabama. So it's a great space to meet a lot of really cool folks and to learn and to engage. So if you can make it down to Alabama, they just opened the registrations, I think this week. So as I mentioned, at the national level, we have our executive committee that's doing all the guidance. Really have to, you give a hand to these folks because they're donating a lot of their time for very boring things like administrative tasks. But without them, we wouldn't be able to function and run. So we have two chairs. Bradley O'Hanlon is the herp conservation coordinator down there at Florida Fish and Wildlife. And then we have Melissa Youngquist with the Shed Aquarium. So there are two co-chairs kind of guiding us. We have Becca Kozad with the Amphibian and Reptile Conservancy. She's a former co-chair who stays on as an ex officio rep. Mark Mandika is our DEI representative with the Amphibian Foundation. And then at the national level, we have Michelle Chrisman, who's the federal agencies coordinator. She works for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, but she provides a nexus to all of the federal agencies, Fish and Wildlife Service, USGS, USDA, and all of that, bringing those folks together to focus on herp conservation and provide that nexus to the overall park network. Similarly, I'm the state agencies coordinator, so I work with all the state herpetologists like JD here in Virginia, and I'm based out of the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies. So my name's a little smaller right now because there have been some changes with funding, so my role has been reduced. So a lot of the work is really falling on the other folks there on that slide. So as mentioned earlier, we've got these task teams also at the national level. And so our disease task team has been like fantastic. They were just at the Wildlife Society conference in Baltimore, and they did a whole day on managing herpetofaunal diseases. And they provide these disease resources for managers. We have a lot of education outreach work that's happening with Amphibian Week and Wild Turtle Week, which I'll talk about. And one of our big programs that is relatively recent, it's only about 6 years old, is the Collaborative to Combat the Illegal Trade in Turtles, or the CCITT. And then our newest working group that's getting off the ground is our Ethical Herping and Observation Standards Task Team, or ETHOS. And so it's not online yet, but they're getting this going and thinking about, you know, ethical ways that we can you know, do herpetology essentially. So the disease task team, they help manage the herp disease alert system, and it's an email. So essentially anybody who sees potentially sick, dead, or dying reptiles and amphibians, you can take pictures and report it to that herp disease alert system. And when we receive those reports, they automatically get sent to whoever the state herpetologist is and also that state wildlife vet. Now we're also including the regional wildlife health coordinators. And so this was started up when BSAL, the salamander fungus, first was described, and we were really concerned. We think about this as like our first alert system. So this is a great way to get people out there, you know, reporting. And so we're sending it to the states and the contacts who you might not always know. So that's our first line of defense there. They recently published a paper about updated biosecurity practices, you know, what concentrations of some of these disinfectants to use and those best practices. They put out some easy to read fact sheets about some of these common herpetofaunal diseases, both new and emerging diseases, or updated information as we get it. And one of the great programs we also have instituted recently is a webinar series. So we started with, you know, just the large scale view of North American herp diseases, and we focused on some of them like ranavirus, snake pentastomes, Purkinsia, and things like that. And they're really designed to kind of bring the researchers and the folks on the ground together to learn about these different diseases. So our upcoming webinars on snake fungal disease, it's going to be on December 5th in the afternoon. So we got close to 500 people already signed up all around the world. So there's folks that are really interested in it. You can also check out our previous webinars online. The final thing that I wanted to mention is that we also interface a lot with the North American BSAL task force, which is focused on that salamander fungal disease and essentially preventing it before it gets into North America, but also working to prepare for it when it does eventually get introduced. Okay, so let's get into some trivia. Between 1996 and 2008, what percentage of illegal wildlife trade that was intercepted contained reptiles? So this is based off of a traffic report that came out in 2010. Do you think it was 20%, 30%, 50%, or greater than 60% containing reptiles? Anybody 20%? 30, 50, greater than 60. Yeah, you are correct. And so this is very unfortunate news. So I'll admit I'm not a herpetologist. And when I came into my current role 3 years ago, I was new to the herp world, but I knew that there were issues with poaching. And I thought it was just, you know, bog turtles and some of these really rare species. I was literally floored when I found out how large of an issue it was here in the United States. When I thought of illegal wildlife trade, I thought of tigers and rhinos and all of that. And I was somebody who was also in the wildlife field before I got into this profession. And so finding out that the United States is not only a top source, but also a top destination country for illegal wildlife trade, including a lot of illegally sourced reptiles and amphibians, was just mind-boggling to me. So in 2018, at a PARC meeting, folks were socializing around the campfire, and they literally ended up forming the collaborative to combat the illegal trade in turtles. They all recognized this problem, especially here in the Northeast with our wood turtles, spotted turtles, box turtles, and all of that. And they said, we need to do something about it. So they formed independently of PARC, but they eventually became part of the PARC network as one of our major task teams. We now have over 200 members, mostly from state and federal agencies and researchers and select NGOs. We do limit membership to the CCITT task team. All the other ones are open for anybody, but this one we have sensitive topics that we have to discuss. So we do have a membership application process and a vetting process and all of that. We do produce public-facing resources, though, so not everything that we do within CCITT is in a vacuum. We're also putting stuff out there. One of our big successes is creating information and resource sharing network and amplifying the message, particularly between law enforcement and biologists and social science, and even leadership within these different agencies as well, because they're like me. They knew that there's a problem, but they don't realize how big this problem is, how much of a conservation crisis it is, particularly for our turtles. So a couple of years ago, our group even succeeded to have Jeff Corwin give us create some free videos on why every turtle counts and a little bit more about turtle poaching and all of that. So really, really awesome to have that. I didn't get involved with that. I'm really sad, but I'm like really excited that Jeff Corwin was putting out that message. And then a number of us just got back from the World Congress of Herpetology this past August, and we had a whole symposia focused on illegal and unsustainable reptile and amphibian trade, and are forming an international working group as we speak. The other really, really cool thing is that a private foundation approached us, and it has provided funding for a 3-year strategic coordinator position. And so we have hired Dr. Brooke Talley to kind of lead and guide the CCITT in the next 3 years. So growing public awareness about herps is also a PARC priority. So now we're in our 5th year for Amphibian Week, and we had over 2,000 people in the DC region this year participate in-person PARC hosted events, as well as thousands of other folks across the United States, and even in places like Nepal. Nepal got on board with the Amphibian Week this year. That was like really, really awesome. So it's that first full week in May every year. We've already picked our dates, and we're finishing up our theme for this year. It sounds like it's going to be Masters of Two Worlds for the amphibian theme. And we hope that you'll get involved with this at a local level and think about, making it like Bat Week and Pollinator Week. It just becomes a normal part of everyday life, celebrating amphibians and their conservation. This past year, we were approached by Wild Hope or Tanglebank Studios. They have this Wild Hope series on PBS, and they provided a free film screening for us at the DC, at the National Zoo. And so we had over 200 people there, including Martha Williams, the director of U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So it was really exciting to have that opportunity and provided to us. On top of that, we have Wild Turtle Week, because we can't have amphibians getting all the press. It has been moved from May. It used to be around World Turtle Day, but hosting 2 educational events in 1 month was a lot. So now we have it in June, centered around World Sea Turtle Day. But it's a smaller celebration, but we still celebrate our turtles all nonetheless. A few other resources. Some of these I have out on the table out here. I don't have any of our posters printed, but we have a lot of posters that have been designed by volunteers that allow us to put them online so you can print them and distribute them on your own. So these right here are Amphibian Week posters. Those were all designed by Ela from the Frog Cult. And so that's a really nice product that we can provide. We have lesson plans for educators. So the picture right there is showing a bog turtle lesson plan all about habitat loss and even illegal collection of bog turtles and how it affects bog turtles. So that's something that's been developed for elementary students, but I use it with all sorts of different ages. We have an amphibian and reptile book list. So if you're looking for some ideas for Christmas, you can check out our book list. I've got a few books on the table, as well as other principal resources, not, things that you can just use on the fly or in these, higher level activities and all of that. The last thing I want to say is we do try to recognize leaders in our field with our 2 annual awards. So we have our Allison Haskell Award, which celebrates unsung heroes in the herp world, and the Visionary Leader Award, which celebrates lifetime achievements. This past year, we were really excited to recognize Noelle Raymond Metcalf. She works with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and has been instrumental with listed species like bog turtles and hellbender conservation, particularly in the Northeast. And she's put a tremendous amount of time into our CCITT and really helped host our Northeast Illegal Turtle Trade Workshop. You'll also get to hear from our visionary leader a little bit later today, but Chris Peterson, as one of the co-founders of Department of Defense PARC, he's been instrumental in products like the Timber Rattlesnake Conservation Action Plan and really helping to raise awareness of herps for the Department of Defense across all of their installations here in North America. And a lot of those resources that he has helped develop for DoD PARC are also transferable to others. So, and he's done so much mentoring over the years. So we're very, very happy to recognize these 2 leaders, but we also have nominations open right now through December 15th. So if you know folks that you would like to recognize in your spheres, check it out. Those 2 awards, they come with a plaque and a $1,000 monetary award. All right. So just looking ahead, check out our website. I've got some papers out on the table, but we have that snake fungal disease webinar coming up, PARC's coming up, and then an amphibian week and wild turtle week. And for those in the Northeast, they haven't selected the dates, or at least haven't published the dates for PARC yet, but that's usually in July and August. So keep a lookout for that. And with that, I'll say thank you.